What's going on, nerds? Welcome back to Comic Book Nerd Nation, episode 51. I'm Fox2. We got Pirate.
I'm so scared to say anything right now.
We got Topher.
Fox has the clap.
And the whole effing Brian.
I can't follow either of those two.
It's frustrating. Absolutely frustrating. Okay, let's talk about what we've been reading. We'll start with Topher since he can't shut the hell up.
Oh, well, now I'll shut the hell up then. Oh boy. What have I been reading? Marvel's Infinity event from last fall. I recently read all of that. The whole event, all the crossovers, all the tie-ins, because it touched a lot of the books that I was reading at the time. It was actually pretty decent. So Avengers, when Marvel now relaunched the Avengers with Jonathan Hickman writing it, I'll be honest, the first 10 issues were just confusing as fuck. Like, no idea what the hell's going on. They introduced some new characters and villains, and he's got this whole like really aloof writing style where he's trying to make everything seem like it's on this huge, grand, universal scale, and it's like, I'm just not feeling it. Like, what? Like, who are these people? Why do I care? And it's like, you know, he just keeps repeating these like idealistic mantras in there, you know, like in the beginning there was nothing, and then there was everything, and like these phrases that don't mean a goddamn thing, and they just get repeated so often, and it's like, okay, if you're building to something, just get there. Well, Infinity was the getting there, and it was actually pretty decent. The idea is there's this race of creatures called the Builders, and they're cosmically ancient. They may have been responsible for creating, you know, life across the universe, and apparently they've gone bad at some point, and they're going around and they've determined that Earth is evil and needs to be destroyed. And it also kind of ties into his new Avengers series, because I guess the Builders realized that the Earth is the incursion point for all these incursions, and if they blow it up, they can save the universe. So really, you know, if the rest of the galaxy found out what they were doing and why, they might have helped them out. But instead, you get the Shi'ar and the Badoon even, and the Kree, and all these other, even the Skrulls reunite and form this, you know, giant galactic council, and start this war, fighting back, trying to keep the Builders from destroying everything in their path on their way to Earth. And it actually ended up being pretty decent. I enjoyed it. Meanwhile, the other half of it is, you know, the Avengers all go out into space to sort of help with this you know, galactic coalition out there, and Thanos realizes that Earth doesn't have Avengers right now and invades Earth with his own army, and so there's kind of like two different things going on at the same time, and it plays out pretty well. In the end, of course, the Avengers win, and you know, even where all these giant millions and millions of people in the galactic armies fail, you know, Captain America, of course, is badass, and you know, his plan wins like 4 different times and saves the entire universe. And it was the scope of it was a little reaching sometimes. I mean, like, it was cool what they did. Like, there was one scene in particular where he has this plan where he sends Thor down to do some negotiating, and there's this pretty wicked panel that I enjoyed the hell out of. That was the result of that. But yeah, it was just, you've got leaders of these interstellar empires, you know, some of the most powerful people in the entire universe, and then everything they do just fails miserably, and somehow Cap and this, you know, ragtag group of a few Avengers manages to win, you know, all these space battles right out from underneath the Builders. And it's like, it's not that it was completely unbelievable, but it was like, wow, you guys are really in love with these characters. Like you can making them just literally be able to win at any odds, and I don't know. But it was well written. The art was amazing. It was really good, and it definitely really plays into everything that's still going on in the Marvel universe with the incursions and whatnot. So it's still part of the big major storyline right now. So I give it a solid B plus. Then on a different turn, I started reading Avengers Arena. That I guess that series actually is over now. Ended a while back, but it started a couple years ago with the whole Marvel Now thing again too. Basically, the idea is there was a book before that ended just after AVX called Avengers Academy, which was sort of like it was a book that was young superpowered teenagers being trained by the Avengers at a school, very similar to like Jean Grey school or whatnot, training them to be like the next generation of Avengers. And then there was another book throughout the last decade that had a few different volumes called The Runaways, that was really popular. Told the story of a group of kids who don't necessarily, some of them have inherited some super abilities, but basically they all find out that their parents are villains, are basically a group of supervillains plotting to do something, and they have to stop them. And so it's like kind of like this group of almost orphan loner types, and the book was wildly popular for a long time. So you've got all these characters that, all these like teenage characters that have been around in the Marvel universe for a while and haven't been getting much use, and so they decided to do a book that pays homage to Battle Royale and Hunger Games, and you've got Arcade starts his new murder world as an island where he abducts all these kids and puts them out there and basically makes shit happen and tries to get them all to kill each other. And I've read like the first 7 or 8 issues, and so far it's been really interesting. Like there was a lot of outcry if you read all the fan letter pages. It's pretty ridiculous because people are like, no, don't kill my favorite characters, because I mean he starts out right in the first book, like people start dying, and it's kind of interesting. Like they're still there, and I'm talking about this all from a like it's still ongoing, and I realize it's ended, but I don't know how it ends yet. But there are a lot of people speculating back then that that maybe it's not real, maybe it's a simulation or something. So I'm interested to see whether whether these favorite characters who have been that are kids and have been people's favorites for years are actually all getting killed off because of this, or if there's something else going on here at a different level. So,
Do you want a spoiler?
no, I don't.
I win.
They're all dead. It's
It was
just
a
a
a dream. X-23 woke up
like,
in a shower.
It's like the Lost series finale is exactly.
Yeah, I never saw that either.
This week I've been reading more of Civil War. I'm probably about 70 or 75 issues into the 105 or 106 issues that like are the all-encompassing Civil War.
Yeah, there were a lot.
I'm really liking this. I kind of think that it might take my top spot as far as crossover events. I think I'm enjoying it more than Forever Evil. It's definitely right up there, Forever Evil and like Blackest Night. That caliber of, it's definitely my favorite Marvel crossover event that I've read thus far. I just really love, like, kind of what Topher was saying. One of your problems was that the the scope of it was a little far-reaching, and the heroes of the story never really faltered. They never really, they were able to overcome any odds, no matter how unsurmountable they may seem. I think what I like so much about the Civil War books is that all of the heroes, which some are portrayed as like the anti-heroes in that series, are struggling through something the entire way through. So there's always this constant struggle, and I think it's really awesome. Unfortunately that's all I've been reading thus far for the last couple of weeks. I really want to finish it before I go back and start catching up on the newer stuff with DC and whatnot. What about you, Brian?
I haven't read much this week yet, but the only thing I have read, and the only thing that's like I'm excited to read each week because I'm more of a Marvel fan than anything, is Axis.
Are you reading that, Topher?
No.
Well, you're not.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like everything else. I've been buying it, but until I catch up, like I'm almost through the end of last year, so I'm getting closer. But I'm trying to like go through everything that I've read or everything that I've bought and like read it as it's in time. So I'm not skipping ahead and reading that when I haven't read the other shit that leads up to it. So I will get there, but I'm still.
Well, without ruining it for Topher,
yeah. So basically,
so here you go. You can talk about it. I'll just set you down over here, and
they're up to issue 5, I believe, just came out, and it's pretty good so far. I mean, Marvel has been lagging to me for a little bit, and this has been decent enough that I'm excited to pick it up each week, which basically is like way back when Marvel started the Uncanny Avengers. A different form of Red Skull. I don't know how to describe. I forgot how to describe this. We had Red Skull. We always had Red Skull, but this Red Skull, I don't know if it's actually him and he's woke. He was frozen instead of it being his mind in somebody else's body or something like that. But he started getting people. We learned in Uncanny Avengers that he came out and he started getting people, like normal citizens, against mutants. And we learned later on that somehow he took part of Professor X's brain and merged it with his, so he gained Professor X's psychic abilities. So this was last year. So now Red Skull has taken over Genosha, made a mutant camp with it to hold the mutants that he was capturing, and trying to turn humans against mutants with his newfound abilities. And he happened to become Red Onslaught, which is Red Skull's head on Onslaught's body. Basically what Magneto and Professor X turned into years and years ago. And Doctor Doom and Scarlet Witch had to cast a spell that inverted everything to try to get Professor X's subconscious to be the forefront of Red Skull, to kind of put away Red Skull and bring Professor X forward, because a little bit of him was still alive in Red Skull's mind. What happens is they beat Red Skull, and then anybody on Genosha, like any heroes, became evil, and any villains became good, because Magneto took some villains and went to fight Red Skull. So that all fucked up, and now the villains are trying to save people after they defeated Red Skull, and the Avengers and the X-Men are trying to fight each other for Red Skull, because the Avengers have him in Avengers Tower. So far now they're like, the heroes are being pieces of shit, and the mutants are trying to attack the Avengers. because they think they should have Red Skull because there's a side of Professor X still in them. But I'm liking it. It's pretty good. It's a different kind of story so far.
Now, have
You know-
you been keeping up with the Godhead stuff too?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I haven't read this week's issue yet.
I'm a few weeks behind on it, so. But I mean,
But-
you can. I mean, by all means, I don't mind.
That's pretty good too. I like anything centered around the Green Lantern universe. I mean, with Jeff Johns, I think it's been lagging a little bit, but Godhead has been really good so far. I like the whole, like, this introduces, like, New Genesis and all the new gods. And they're just, I like the concept that they're just, like, trying, I like the concept that they're throwing, this is another event for Green Lanterns that are throwing all the ring cores together
Who was
to
the
fight.
main villain in that? Darkseid, right?
No, he's not the main villain. The main, well, there's no. It's hard to explain
They
because there's
they
no.
mention him though, right?
They mention him because the new gods are. Darkseid in a way is a new god too. Like they're all like the same. Like entities,
Right.
almost.
On the same tier, if you will.
Yeah, and because like they're all, New Genesis always fights against Apocalypse, the planet Apocalypse, because they're always in this constant struggle. Because Darkseid's like think of it as like almost Christian religion. Darkseid's their devil, and no matter what, the armies of God are always fighting the armies of the devil.
Right.
So like they want to finally just put Darkseid to rest, and they're trying. They know that the Lanterns have gotten that they wanted what's beyond the Source Wall to beat Darkseid with, and they know that that all the rings create the power, the life equation that defeats Darkseid. But what they didn't know is that it's not all the rings together at once. It's the white ring, which is like not all the rings collected, but all the power merged into one.
Right.
So
I'm
they didn't
definitely
know
interested
that,
in
so
it.
they collected the rings. It didn't work. It didn't pass them beyond the Source Wall, and then they figured out there's a White Lantern, and that's the life equation, which Kyle Rayner once before has passed the Source Wall and came back, which is impossible. So now that they know that it's the Lanterns the other rings can't help them, they're trying to defeat them because they think that that nobody should wield the power of the emotions because it's going to run the emotions dry and destroy the universe or something like that. So it's not really like good and bad. It's a good that thinks another good is bad. So
I
they
see.
have to fight each other.
That's interesting. I'm definitely like that's one that I can't wait to like. I'm kind of glad that I'm falling a few weeks behind, so that when I come back to it, there'll be a handful of the Godhead books that I can go through and read to get caught. You know what I mean? Like read
Yeah.
back to back to back, because that's the hardest part. I think when you're really into an event like that, and like you have to like wait for the next ones to come out. That's why I hated. That's the worst part of Forever Evil is it took so long for it to wrap up.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's what I do. Also, what you just said you do. That's what I do with Eternal. I wait a couple of weeks and then read like 3 books.
yeah,
I mean, it's hard. This is a weekly event because it flows through all the Green Lantern titles.
yeah, which are a lot.
Yeah, which are like 5 or 6 because almost every Lantern Corps has their own book.
Real close anymore.
Yeah.
So what about you, Pirate? What have you been reading?
This week was one of those weeks, like, when you sit down and you start to read something and then your phone rings, something comes up or whatever, you're like, shit. So I probably spent 3 times trying to sit down and go back and read the Star Wars comics that they did with, it was that original rough draft of the movie Star Wars.
Oh,
It's called
the
Star
first
It's called
the
The
first
Star
script.
Wars.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
the first
it's called,
script.
yeah, it's just called The Star Wars. And
How is that? I was starting to read it, but then I got
it's
bored.
yeah, I started reading it. I was reading it as it was coming out, and then,
How was that? I started
it
to
was
read it and
like-
I thought it was boring, so I stopped because it was bad. What did you
and
think?
then well, it's not that it's bad. It's really it's interesting because you can see the DNA of the movies, in there. It's not like it's not complete and utter. It's not foreign. You know what I mean? Like you can tell it's not one of those comics where you're like, oh wow, I don't even know what's going on here, because you kind of already know some of the characters, but they're completely different, which makes it kind of interesting as you get further in the series. But I was reading it as it was coming out, and I never finished. I think the last 2 issues. I think it was like 9 issues long or something like that.
Is that your problem? You never finish?
never finish. Always finish. But so yeah, it's.
Maybe the problem is
I
that it
don't-
finishes too early,
Oh man,
like this story.
premature
Exactly.
reading.
Yeah, premature reading. I stopped at 2 issues short. But anyways, so I went back and started reading it, and I got the first 2 or 3, and then something would come up, and I'd lose my train of thought, or, a squirrel would show up. I don't know.
One of these
Yeah,
nuts.
squirrel.
This comic book is so good. What was that?
And there goes whole effing Brian.
Brian Squirrel
Yeah,
showed up.
Brian saw a squirrel and left.
But yeah, it's not bad, but I've
got-
only read like back into the same stuff I've already reread when it was as it came out.
Yeah.
So I didn't really achieve my goal of finishing it like I planned. So I don't know. Light week for me.
Fair enough. That's no fault in that. I mean,
No fault in my stars.
all right, let's move on and start talking about some news. The first thing that I want to talk about is the Marvel 75 Omnibus. Have you guys seen this thing?
It's huge.
Yeah.
It
It's
is
fucking big.
It's massive as fuck, and it's like
It's
gonna
thicker than my
retail-
dick.
You beat me to it. I was gonna say.
So it's like what,
Sort of
like
the same.
2 centimeters, 3 centimeters, maybe. About 12
yeah.
pages. That ought to cover that, right?
I'm just long.
Right. Moving on. The Marvel 75 Omnibus. It looks awesome. I think it's retailing for like $125 hardback through Amazon. I think it comes out like next week or something.
I think so, something like that.
It looks really cool.
I have no idea when it comes out. They've been talking about it for months now.
It's
It's only available like I don't know.
let me see if I can look it up here. Have you seen anything about it, Topher?
Oh yeah, they were talking about it a while ago. They actually had readers vote on what stories they thought were the most important stories in in Marvel's history. And for a while there was a controversy because they showed cover art and they didn't have the Fantastic Four on anywhere on the cover, and people were up in arms, throwing a fit, saying that that Marvel's feud with Fox over the Fantastic Four rights was getting ridiculous. That Fantastic Four #1 was the issue that started the whole concept of the Marvel universe, and and they don't even have the Fantastic Four on the cover for it. So
Well, it's
a lot of people
definitely in the book. Fantastic Four is
right. It is. It did get included, but a lot of people were really upset with it. They thought they might be trying to exclude them from everything when they didn't show them in the cover art that they released early on. So, but yeah, I mean, I looked through the list of all the stories that are in there. I mean, they're all pretty good. It seems like everybody's represented pretty well. There were a couple in there that I thought were like maybe only looked on more favorably than some because they were more recent and still like fresher in people's minds. I don't know that they will be as important another 75 years from now, but yeah, I thought most of the selections seemed pretty
So
solid.
it looks like, just to give you the info on it here, it's titled 75 Years of Marvel Comics from the Golden Age to the Silver Screen. It's available in hardcover for $115.87 on Amazon, and it is released on November 26th this year. So, and it looks badass. I think this is probably going to be something that I'm going to have to get for my collection. Just because, like you said, it's got a ton of those, those stories, those comics that you would love to own the comic book, but you're probably never going to be able to afford to actually have the actual comic. So as far as having it on paper without getting one of those cheeseball reprint things, this is probably the next best way, I think, to have it in hard print. Are any of you guys going to be picking this up, you think?
Possibly.
I will not.
I will not.
I'll probably ask Santa for it.
Yeah?
I mean,
Yeah.
Are you going to go
I'm
sit
not
on
gonna
his
do it.
lap and...
No, even better. I'm going to pull my pants down and sit under the chimney. So when he slides down,
Wait,
bam!
hold on. Wait a minute. Let's just talk about the logistics of this for a second. You're going to pull your
Have
pants
his feet
down
up.
and sit under the... Why are you pulling your pants down?
Because, get it? When he slides down, he'll land on my dick.
He'll land on a log.
If you sit in the chimney, he'd land on your head.
Okay, I'll lay down in the chimney. I'll just
But
put my
wait,
feet
then
in
he
there.
would, then he would land on your feet.
Clearly, physics is not Brian's strong suit.
No.
You're going to have to bust a hole through the bottom of the
When-
backside of the chimney so you can kind of shimmy through it. And that way, when
You guys are just thinking about it too much now.
Stop raining on my parade, guys. I just want to butt fuck Santa.
I thought Santa was a woman.
How did we get on this topic?
I don't know.
Thank Brian for
Because
that
I
one.
said I'm asking Santa for the book.
All right, moving forward. You were talking about the Star Wars comics. Let's talk about the new title of the Star Wars movie. It's The Force Awakens, right? Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
Hugh Bryan with a dick reference.
Dick.
Dick. As Topher covers his face and shakes his head. Okay, Topher, you got any information for us on this? I know you're the resident Star Wars expert, I would say.
I mean, that's pretty much the story right now is just the title. Nobody really knows exactly what it's going to mean. The Force Awakens. I mean, I think it's kind of bland. It doesn't really mean anything to me right now. A lot of people were kind of very meh about the announcement of the title, but it's one of those things where you don't know what it's going to mean to you until you see the movie. Hell, A New Hope, Episode 4 didn't even get the A New Hope title until it was re-released in theaters, at the end of the trilogy. Some of the other ones haven't been great names. Attack of the Clones, so I mean the name doesn't really mean a whole lot. Everybody's going to call it Episode 7.
I mean,
anyway,
at least with the name Attack of the Clones, you kind of have an idea of what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, but Attack of the Clones had the Attack of the Clones for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
it was the clones attacking for 10 minutes at the end of the movie.
I thought Phantom Menace was a terrible name.
yeah.
That
You know,
one was definitely-
That one was kind of odd. Attack of the Clones, to me, every time I heard it, all I could hear was Attack of the Clowns, and it's like Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones makes you think that the clones are going to attack you. Well, that's not really the case. You get the clones, and then you're able to fight back. You hear Attack of the Clones, and you think, oh God, we're gonna get attacked, and the clones are on their side. So I mean, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me.
All right.
Revenge
should have
of the
been called
Sith was one of the best ones, so I mean, I don't know. It's gonna be one of those. It's gonna be one of those. The title, how good the title is gonna depend on how good the movie is. 10 years from now, just hearing The Force Awakens could just stir chills in people because of how good the movie ends up being.
That's true.
Or it could be another cringeworthy moment, somebody says Phantom Menace, and everybody's kind of
So what's your number one favorite Star Wars movie, Topher? Knee jerk reaction.
It's episode 4. I mean, eh, like a lot of people for a long time were trying to say, like that Empire Strikes Back was such a better movie, and in a lot of ways it is. But when I go back and I want to like rewatch one of the movies, like when I pull the case of DVDs out, the Blu-ray edition, and I'm like, if I just want to watch one, I watch the first one because it's the only one that like is a really complete story in and of itself, and it's not like I love watching the trilogy or watching multiple in a row, or they're good to watch together, but if I have to pick just one, then it's going to be episode 4.
Brian, what's yours? What's your favorite?
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi. Good choice. Good choice. What about you, Pirate?
Return of the Jedi. Just the way Luke Skywalker is at the beginning.
Yeah,
like
he's
he comes
he's
in
a
just
badass.
so badass. Yeah, definitely Return of the Jedi.
Mine is
Plus, you love
Empire
the
Strikes.
Ewoks.
Oh,
I do. I actually do. I hated the movies that they made, like the off movies, the offshoots with the little girls, and like you know what I mean. Like they had the little kid versions or whatever. I hated that, but the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi were pretty badass. I ain't gonna lie.
My favorite is Empire Strikes Back. Personally, I really like the whole Yoda training Luke thing in Dagobah, and that's my favorite of the 3, or well, of the 6 rather.
It's
Now,
hard for me to pick a favorite because when I think about it, like I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. Like we talk about how everybody hates on the Phantom Menace, and it did have its bad parts, but
It plays its
also
role,
has
though.
it also has some good parts, and there are a lot of things I really like in that movie. And somebody called me out on it the other day. They're like, I don't know why you're making fun of it. I'm like, well, because it's popular to make
Because
fun
of
of it.
because
Like,
of Jar
it's a
Jar
cool
Binks.
thing to
That's
do.
why I'm making fun of
Yeah,
it.
It's
Okie
exciting.
Day?
But when you actually watch it, like if you can tune out, kind of tone down on the Jar Jar parts, like there's a lot of good stuff going on there, like the political stuff with Palpatine and Qui-Gon, like having a slightly different viewpoint than the Council, and Qui-Gon's a great character, and Darth Maul was a cool villain, even though he was only in it for all of 5 minutes. There were a lot of really good parts to it, and it's funny, I realize when I think about it that as much as we make fun of it sometimes, I would rather watch Phantom Menace than like 95% of the other movies on my shelf, or so it's like it's still a Star Wars movie, and even though it's my least favorite of the Star Wars movies, that it's the fact that it's Star Wars still makes it better than most of the shit out there.
That is a pretty valid point.
Fair
I never
enough.
thought about that, but yeah.
Have you guys ever played just on a Phantom Menace note? Have you guys ever played the arcade game Pod Racer deal where you sit in the fucking Pod Racer and like you control the levers and shit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta
I
admit
think
that's
that.
pretty fun. I'm
The
just
only
saying.
Star Wars game I think I've ever played in my life was like the Rebel Assault that I had was like on the first
Oh, that game
computer I
was
ever
awesome.
got.
Back in the day
Yeah,
where
I
you're
think-
flying the Tiderian or the is it Tiderian shuttle? No.
Shuttle Tiderium.
Yeah.
It
Well-
was like it was like on Windows 95. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I have a fucking big joystick.
But
I
it
got
had like motion capture video, like of like it was like real video of people. It was
yeah.
Yeah,
was
that was
sick.
a legit
Yeah.
game. That was a good game. Did you ever play that one,
I
Brian?
take that back.
What?
Did you ever play Rebel Assault?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
My
I
other
also
favorite
played-
was what were the games for GameCube where you just piloted all the ships for different missions?
I think that was like I think that was like a follow
Was
up
it-
to the
was
Rebel
it like-
Assault stuff.
It might have been.
I
feel like it was
I never
called,
had
like-
GameCube. That was for infants.
I played the one on 64. I think it was the Phantom Menace game that came out with like in comparison with the movie.
Yeah,
And it
that's
was on like a
yeah.
Nintendo 64, and it was like they had the pod race scene. that you
Yeah,
had
yeah,
to-
yeah. I played that one.
That
once.
was pretty fun.
I liked Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah, that was a good game too.
Great game.
You fought
There
Boba
was
Fett.
so much good Star
Wait,
Wars.
there was
games.
one. There was one for the PlayStation Portable that I have. That
There
was
are
pretty
a
fun.
ton of Star Wars games when you
The
think back on
PC
it.
games too, like the Jedi Knight, like Dark Forces was the first person shooter, and then it led into
Was Dark
the
Forces the one that was basically Doom, but
Yeah.
it was like skinned
Yeah.
to be
it
Star
was
Wars?
Star Wars themed Doom, and it was actually pretty
It was
good.
fucking
and then,
awesome, is what it was.
Yeah, and then the character in there, Kyle Katarn,
He
ends
was
up.
from the books, right?
Well, he started in the video game. Actually, they
Oh,
wrote
did
him
he?
into the books because he was such a popular character from the games. He then gets trained as a Jedi, and you had another set of games, the Jedi Knight games, Jedi Knight 2, and then Jedi Academy, and those were some of the most fun games ever because there was some of the first games that let you do force powers.
Yeah,
and
I remember
you,
playing those.
run around and force lightning people. You could pick a dude up and throw him into a pit. Like it was so fun. You had so much control over stuff. Like until the
that the
Force
one-
Unleashed, like you never got to do any of that stuff in a
Yeah.
game, and you
Was
still
that
don't
the
get to,
game
and
where-
it's awesome.
Like you played as Darth Vader's apprentice.
That was Force Unleashed. That was on the.
Okay.
Those
That
were
was
the
a con-
console
that was a
games.
console
came out a
game.
few-
These
like,
were-
several
these were,
years ago.
Yeah,
These games were like
There's a lot of Star Wars
These
games.
were like 10 or 15 years ago. Like right after Dark Forces, the shooter game, like the same like in the same series, they changed to the Jedi Knight games, and they were PC games. And
Yeah, it was in
and,
like 2000 or 2001 because I remember playing it like around the time I was a freshman in college.
yeah, and they were so good.
Yeah, they were. Those games were
The
for the
lightsaber
time frame when they came out. It was like you said, pretty much
combat
down-
and the force powers. You just had so much control. You could target people. You could lift them up. You could wave them around. You could slam them on the ground. You could throw them into a pit. You could even lift them up, choke them in midair, then yank them to you and impale them on your lightsaber. It was fucking sick.
Yeah,
It was so much fun.
yeah. That game was kind of makes me want to fucking go play it. To be honest,
I know. I'm like, where do I have that game still? Well, can I even install it on this operating?
Yeah, right. Like, is my computer too
There's-
fast to run that?
There's actually, we were just talking about this the other day. There's some company who offers like old games. You can buy old games that they've redone with like modern wrappers to be able to run on current systems. So like the old Rebel Assault games and X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. You know, like you can get those again and play them. Like the graphics are really.
Oh yeah,
The old
clearly they
That
would be.
reminds me.
but they repackage them so that they'll actually run on current systems.
That's awesome.
That reminds me. I just found a website. I was informed to by somebody. It has like every Super Nintendo game you can play on your computer for free. It's SNESfun.com. And it is like Killer Instinct, everything. You do it, everything is ported to the computer. It's amazing.
But does
You can
Killer
literally
Instinct
go on there.
come in a special black case online?
Yeah, that's a good point.
You miss out on that.
The gold edition.
All right, let's move on to the next topic here. We may have already touched on this. I can't remember if we talked about it on here or if we talked at work in person about this, but there is a rumor going around. I don't know how true it is, but there's a rumor that Jared Leto could be playing the Joker in the 2016 movie Suicide Squad.
Oh, get the fuck out.
Brian, how do you feel about that?
Get the fuck out. No.
I'm with
now
Brian on that.
they're trying to find these, like, it feels like to me that they're trying to find these, like, actors that did these, like, weird movies, like Heath Ledger. Didn't Heath Ledger do one of those, like, Memento type movies?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think.
Heath Ledger?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't. Jared Leto. No, I mean, yeah, basically. That's just such a bad idea. My brain can't process it.
Heath Ledger. Let's see here. Filmography. He was in Lords of Dogtown. Was probably his character in Lords of Dogtown was probably one of the weirder characters that I recall.
Yeah, but
Patriot,
that's not
Two
like one of those
Hands.
movies.
Monsters Ball, Pause, Black Rock. clowning around. I don't. He's not even. No, he's not even credited in that. I mean,
I don't know. I like him. I
you think
I
Jared
think
Leto would make a good?
I don't know that I would have thought of it, but I mean, he's a pretty decent actor. I like the dude, and I think he could. I think that could be interesting. I don't think he'd do a bad job of that at all.
I think I just shat my pants.
What do you think, Pirate?
I think the only good character Jared Leto ever played was the fucking blonde-haired kid in Fight Club that got the shit beat out of him all the time. That's the like. I don't like. Maybe it's because I just don't like him as a musician.
How do you feel about Jared Leto as a person?
I don't think I like him. Like
30 Seconds to Mars sucks.
Like, he seems like one of those guys. Like if you was like hanging out with him at a bar, you'd be like, dude, why the fuck do you dress? Why do you look like that? Why do you act like that? Like you're a tool. Like you know what I mean? Like he just seems like one of those guys that I hate on a personal level. You know what I mean? Like, and I shouldn't be like that, but. Man,
like if you saw him in the streets,
hard.
you'd probably kick him in the nuts and slap him in the face.
No, I wouldn't even do that because I mean then I'd feel like I'm hitting a girl. You know what
Sounds
I mean?
Sounds like somebody's jealous of his piercing blue eyes.
Sounds like somebody stares at his face too long.
Yeah.
Sounds like somebody's not jealous. Sounds like somebody's got fucking.
So,
man, I want to
Topher,
suck his cock.
Tell me about the man crush you have on Jared Leto.
Yeah. That's really good.
I mean,
Since you
I don't
think
know,
he has piercing blue eyes.
he's on my list. I'd hit it.
All right, fair enough. We'll just leave it at that.
No.
He's
they
like,
also
no, please don't leave it at that. No.
They also announced that Margot Robbie would be playing Harley Quinn in the new Suicide Squad.
Who is Margot Robbie?
She was
That's a really good question. She was in The Wolf of Wall Street.
yeah, I think she was his what's his name's whore.
I don't know. Margot.
I've never seen the movie,
I
but I
checked her
know
IMDb page. She's been in like half a dozen things, and that's it. So
Margot
and I've
Robbie?
seen none of them.
Is it
so,
Robbie?
Yeah, she's just a hot blonde. That's basically it.
Margot Robbie.
They also cast Deadshot for that movie too.
She has been in like nothing.
Yeah, I mean the some of the pictures I've seen of her like look like she, could fit the role pretty well. I can say nothing of her acting ability because I've never seen anything that she's in. But
she was in About Time,
she looks the part at least.
Wolf of Wall Street, ICU, Vigilante, The Elephant Princess TV series. Never heard of it. Like most of.
Did she get fucked by an elephant?
She's also she's going to be. Apparently, right now she's filming a Tarzan movie. She plays Jane.
Oh, she's gonna be Jane in the Tarzan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about that?
I think that Harley Quinn is probably going to be the most like ridiculed part for this movie, and getting an actor who pretty much doesn't have a very good filmography.
I don't know that that's a smart decision.
A very broad filmography is probably not going to be a good idea.
Yeah, I agree.
See, I disagree.
It's
I
probably
think
also going to be the hardest character to act too.
Yes.
Like you really got to come with your A game if you're going to be Harley Quinn.
I think you have to get someone that people aren't as familiar with, and like look at all of DC's casting choices in the past. Like when they get an established actor to play, a role, like they try and go for big names, and how often has that worked out for them? George Clooney, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I
Christian
think
Bale.
I think the better play here is to go for
Morgan Freeman.
I don't consider Nolan's
put-
movies Warner Brother and DC's. I think he took
What?
that.
You can't
I think
you
of
can't
him.
just
He's
discredit
just like
them because
let
they're
me
good.
do this.
You can't just be like, you know what,
Christian
those are good movies, so we're not going to count those as DC movies.
No, not at all. Because he was just
Fuck
like,
you.
let me
That's
do
fucking
this.
ridiculous.
And plus, Nolan does the Tarantino. He uses his actors across the board.
Christian Bale, yes, was a bigger actor, but I think he fit that role more. Like they didn't cast him because he's a huge name. Like George Clooney and Arnold Schwarzenegger, I don't think they fit those parts. They cast him because they're like, oh, we can put that actor's spin on the character. They weren't looking for. It's the difference between looking to play the character or getting an actor and shaping the character to the actor, and that's the difference here. Like when you had first off, Morgan Freeman didn't play a superhero. He played Lucius Fox.
But he played a
character,
comic book character in a comic book movie.
Yes, but I'm talking about like costumed people, like the choices for the personality. It's about making the actor fit the character, not the other way around. And when you had George Clooney's Batman and Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze, they were trying to fit the character to the actor. And I think that's where they always go wrong. And I think picking a relatively unknown.
What about Michael Keaton? Or Jack Nicholson? Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson.
Well, look at Michael Keaton. He had done Mr. Mom. He was more goofy, and they didn't try.
And was a good Batman.
Yes, that's
they
what I'm saying.
They brought him in because he was popular, and the same for Jack Nicholson.
You're like completely missing my point. I'm not saying that they should use people who've never been in a fucking movie. I'm saying that it's with Michael Keaton, they didn't try to make Batman like Michael Keaton. They made Michael Keaton like Batman. That's the difference. That's why it worked. If you've got an actor that's bigger than their roles and has a personality, like Michael Keaton, they played the role to, they fit him in the role. Like George Clooney and Arnold Schwarzenegger have these larger than their roles, personas that they fit the character to, and so that's why they went wrong. And so if you take somebody who the public doesn't have this appearance of them, this idea of them is something else and some outside personality, then it's a lot easier to let the character be the dominant persona there rather than the actress. And so I think going with somebody like this is a fine choice.
Unless the actress is incapable of acting Harley Quinn, which is,
like I said, I can speak nothing of her acting prowess because I've never seen anything she's in. But I'm saying that going with an unknown versus going with somebody who's like an established, super famous actress, I think is fine, because you can easily fall into the trap of fitting the character to the huge celebrity's persona.
I think Chris brings up a good point with that, though. I mean, he doesn't. I now have to agree with Chris. I think that thinking about it, they wouldn't have cast her as Harley Quinn if they didn't have her come in and audition, probably on several times, how they perceive Harley Quinn. So if she does a bad Harley Quinn, at that point, then it's on casting.
I mean, but do you think that they didn't have those same casting and auditions for like George Clooney or fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger?
But
those were the Joel Schumacher films, and those were inevitably going to be.
I'm just saying, like,
if you offer Arnold Schwarzenegger a role and you pay Arnold Schwarzenegger's salary, and he starts acting, you don't say, "No, I'm sorry, Arnold, you're being too Arnold. I need you to be more, the character." Like, no, you don't do that. You let those people do their take on it. When you have a character and you're more interested about the character,
I highly doubt that that's how it goes. I highly doubt
that. I could see if you get
so
a very
you're saying that the director has nothing to do with it, and the actor can just do whatever the fuck they want when they get on set.
No, I'm saying if you hire an immensely expensive celebrity personality like that.
Hello.
Whose is that? What the fuck is that?
Brian's porn site's getting pop-ups over here.
We're getting Brian's phone call right now.
No, I have my computer screen up because that's what lights my face. And all of a sudden, a fucking ad popped on.
Oh.
Somebody
needs to run some
Here's a prime example, though, Fox, about what you said about how the director may have no control. Do you remember when Kevin Smith was talking about how he directed Bruce Willis and the shit that he had to go through?
True, but to my point, it wasn't just Bruce Willis making all the calls. It was still a back and forth. It was still like, ultimately, it was up to the director.
I'm not saying it's not up to the director. I'm saying you don't hire someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger if you don't want them to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, celebrities like that have, a certain persona. Like, you look at George Clooney's characters that he's played. Sure, he's an okay actor, but he plays the same character in everything. Like, he's the same personality in every role he plays. And so you know what you're getting. If you hire George Clooney to be Batman, you know you're getting that Batman. You're getting George Clooney playing Batman. You're not getting Batman who happens to look like George Clooney. And so that's what I'm saying. If you take an actress or an actor who's relatively unknown and doesn't have this huge, celebrity persona around them, then if they're not playing that, you're not hiring her to be her, you're hiring her to be Harley Quinn. If you hire Mr. Freeze as Arnold Schwarzenegger and he doesn't play Mr. Freeze, you've still got Arnold Schwarzenegger, and people are going to go see Arnold Schwarzenegger. So by hiring someone who's not a box office draw just by virtue of their name, you're getting someone who, if they don't play the has to do the character. So I think that's a good sign. Sure, she might suck at it, but I'm not going to say she's going to be awesome at it, but I think you're going to get a production in which the focus is on playing the character, not letting the celebrity personality shine through that character.
I think you kind of addressed my point too, though. There, like, I think that because you're getting someone that's less well known, and you said sure, she might suck at it. I think my point is that if you get somebody with more experience, maybe not somebody that's that top tier, that's as popular as like Angelina Jolie or George Clooney or somebody like that, but you get somebody with more experience than what this lady has, she might have the tools and the skills to play a better Harley Quinn. That's my point. But so be it.
Harley Quinn's a very over-the-top character, and it's one of those. I like the fact that it's somebody that I'm not familiar with, because I don't like going to a movie. I like when people cast unknowns in movies. Like, I don't like going to a movie and seeing a character and going, oh yeah, that's that one actor who's been in blah blah blah. It's like, no, like I want to see the characters. I don't want to see the actors. So
it does kind of give the moviegoer a fresh slate to kind of take in the character. You know what I mean? Like Chris said, if you go to a movie where there's a bunch of where somebody's got a huge list of stuff that they've done or big work, you're always gonna find a way to compare that, like,
I mean, I guess unless they do a really good job.
Them yourself before you've seen it.
There are only a handful of actors that I think are so amazingly good that when I see them in another movie, I see them completely as that role, and I don't even think about all the other things they've been in. There's only a few actors that are that good. Most of the time, you see an actor like Tom Cruise. You go to a Tom Cruise movie, it's like, sure, it might be a decent movie, but it's Tom Cruise. It's Tom Cruise in every role he's ever been in. He's playing Tom Cruise. Like, it's not that he's a bad actor. Like, one of my favorite movies is Last Samurai. I just looked over and saw it on my shelf there. Like, I love that movie, but he's still Tom Cruise in it. And like, it's hard to decouple the actor's personality and who the person is from their role. A lot of actors and actresses get typecast because they're good at one thing, and so when you see them in a movie, you've already pigeonholed them as to what kind of character that's going to be because of who's playing them. And when you've got DC who's had some failures in the past, and they're trying to bring this new universe in, and you've got a character that's so immensely popular in the comics right now as Harley Quinn, the important thing is to make sure that people go into that movie and they do the character justice. If you screw up Harley Quinn, there are going to be a lot of pissed people.
That's all I'm saying right there.
Especially Kevin Smith's daughter.
Which I think,
yeah.
Which is why I think you need someone that people don't have a prior notion of going in. People want to go in. They want people to go in and see the character. They don't want people to go in and go, "Oh, that's so and so playing Harley Quinn."
Fair enough. I see where you're coming from on it. Okay, on the next and final note of news, How excited are you guys that Underoos are back and you can buy them for adults in retro packaging?
Can you really?
Hey,
They're adult sizes?
Yeah.
Holy
They're mainly
God.
being released in adult sizes.
That is
Are they out yet? I'm
Yes.
going to Target.
They're at Hot Topic is where you
Wonder
can
Underoos.
get
Hot
them.
Topic. I'm going to
Jesus
Hot
Christ,
Topic.
Hot Topic.
Well, hopefully my soul doesn't get stolen by
Hot
those
Topic
goth people.
And let me see if I can get you a list of.
I would just try to order them off Amazon. Fuck going into that store. I went in there. When I was on vacation like a month or two ago. I went to the mall down in Florida, and I was just walking around killing time. They had a Hot Topic there. I went in there, and I used to get some band T-shirts there and everything, and I'd go in there. They didn't even have band T-shirts. They had rap T-shirts.
Yeah.
And they weren't even like
The old school band T-shirts.
They weren't even like a lot of old school ones. It was mostly like, obviously they had a Ramones T-shirt, which that's just a classic that probably is never going to leave that store, which it shouldn't. Kids should always get that T-shirt. But like, it was just a lot of purples, a lot of bright colors. I mean, and Metallica T-shirts. So they had rap, Ramones, Metallica, and that was it. I'm like, are you fucking serious? But they had a shit ton of Nightmare Before Christmas. And
They come with T-shirts?
Yeah,
yeah,
here's the
T-shirts and
here's the complete list. Is
I'm not paying attention to Brian. John.
It's where are they at? Okay,
Superman,
Batgirl,
Wonder
Harley
Woman,
Quinn, Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, Captain America, Skeletor, and He-Man.
Did you say Batgirl too? Because Batgirl's in there too, and
Yes,
Harley Quinn.
Batgirl and Harley Quinn were the first two I said. Yes.
Oh, well, fuck you.
You didn't hear him
Wow, they
because he
even
started
have a
talking over
Rouge
top of me when I was
commercial
already.
I know, I'm staring at all these dudes' crotches because they have the model.
So
they are available at Target.
How excited are you guys to get a pair of these? Be honest, Brian.
I thought they'd have more characters on the
This is just the first
on the
run.
briefs. They're just like colored though. Like
Yeah,
didn't-
it's
you
like
didn't
you're
wear
wearing a costume.
yeah, if you didn't wear the T-shirt with it, people would be like, "What the fuck are you wearing on your crotch there?"
Well, I mean, I don't think you're supposed to wear them around in public, just the bottoms.
Well, you're not? That's the first thing I would do, is run around in public.
Okay. Look for
I'm a He-Man.
Whole F and Brian on the news later getting arrested.
You can't arrest me. I'm Batman.
Yeah.
Not my fault! They told me to do it!
Brian will have to settle for like the only thing left available, which will be like Batgirl.
Pirate
He'll be running around in
Pirate
panties
will
at the-
then get arrested subsequently for trying to rescue Brian playing Batman. John will be dressed up like fucking Captain America.
fucking throw a garbage can lid at the officer. He'll be like, run! I'll save you.
Oh, God.
I love how, like, if you go on the Hot Topic website and put your cursor over the fucking female ones, they show their ass. For the dudes, it's just like, oh, let me untuck and tuck my shirt.
Oh, God.
Like, I wish they more had something on, like, the back, like the Batman logo or the Superman
Yeah,
logo.
that's what I'm saying. Like the women's ones, you look at them and you're like the Batgirl ones. Like, okay, if you didn't wear the top with that, those are clearly Batgirl panties. You look at like
Batgirl panties, you can see her camel toe
Well, maybe
too.
you should buy.
you look at the,
Maybe
look
you
at
should
the
buy the
He-Man-
Batgirl panties for
I am.
yourself.
I will
You look
buy
at
the
you look at the He-Man one, and if you weren't wearing that shirt with it, it would look like you've just got some frickin' underwear from the 1970s that you're still wearing.
Some underwear from the 1970s.
I mean, look at it.
Is it that?
Yeah, how
is it
it's
that?
brown?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it does.
It's like the brown and orange color. Yeah.
Really, all of the guys' ones look like that. You're right.
There's no pattern or anything on them. Like, there's nothing to if you just wore those, there's nothing to identify them as as the character.
Wow, that sucks.
Full colors. Because it's not like I'm gonna go around wearing the undershirt with it all the,
The
time.
shirts,
Yeah, I
are,
need-
the shirts are pretty fantastic.
I
The
need
shirts
some.
are cool, but I'm not gonna wear the shirts with the.
But for
with
$20,
all
you
the
can get
time.
a shirt
So.
that's just as cool.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty lame.
But if anybody gets to the point where they're seeing the bottoms, like you're probably not necessarily going to be wearing the shirt with it, and if you are, well, there might have just gone your chances.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Shit. I
Yeah.
think I was gonna say something stupid like, why have a logo on the back where my shit stains are just gonna soak through?
All right, I think that's a good note to end on.
Yeah.
I'm Fox 2. We got Pirate,
See you guys.
Topher,
That's more than I ever wanted to think about. Brian's underwear.
and the whole effing shit-stained Brian.
Nobody wants to talk about my shit stains anymore.